All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we are unpacking a massive, mind-bending thought experiment, a catastrophic, split-second planetary halt. Now, I know, it sounds exactly like the plot of some big-budget sci-fi blockbuster, right? But as we dive into the science here, the physics behind it are absolutely real and honestly pretty fascinating. We're going to explore exactly what would happen if the constant, incredibly reliable mechanics of our home planet simply took a tiny 1-second break. So picture this. You wake up tomorrow morning, you're grabbing your coffee, everything feels totally normal. But then, out of nowhere, the planet just hits the brakes for 1 single second. I mean, it sounds like nothing, doesn't it? A second is literally the tick of a clock, just a blink of an eye. You'd naturally think nothing monumental could possibly happen in such a ridiculously short window of time. But, well, the laws of physics tell a terrifyingly different story. That single, seemingly insignificant pause, it would actually trigger one of the greatest disasters in recorded human history. To get why a mere 1-second pause would be so globally devastating, we first got to look at our baseline planetary speed. Right now, down at the equator, the Earth is hurtling around its axis at nearly 1,670 kilometers per hour. Just let that number sink in for a second. 1,670. That's actually faster than the speed of sound. And that right there is the permanent underlying speed limit governing the surface of our entire world. Now, to really grasp this, we have to look at the invisible physics of our daily lives. Right now, wherever you're sitting or standing watching this, you probably feel perfectly still. But that stillness? It's a complete illusion. You only feel perfectly stationary because you, the room around you, the building you're in, even the atmosphere itself, you are all riding a giant, perfectly smooth cosmic conveyor belt. You're moving at that exact same incredible speed of 1,670 kilometers per hour right along with the planet. And that brings us to the brutal reality of a little thing called inertia. Inertia is just the fundamental tendency of objects to keep doing whatever it is they're already doing. So if the Earth suddenly stops turning, the bedrock stops, the dirt stops. But everything not anchored deep into the very core of the planet, it just keeps moving forward. You don't suddenly stop just because the ground beneath you did. That momentum is already there. Imagine that conveyor belt we talked about just jamming instantly. It is an absolute nightmare scenario. Anything not bolted directly to the bedrock, people, cars, trains, airplanes, would be violently thrown forward at supersonic speeds. Literally everything around us becomes a high-speed projectile in the blink of an eye. Human infrastructure wouldn't stand a chance. Our strongest buildings would suffer massive, instantaneous structural failure because, well, their foundations halt, but their upper floors are still trying to rip forward at over 1,000 kilometers an hour. Oh, and the atmosphere wouldn't stop either. That would instantly generate powerful global winds, supersonic shockwaves that are far stronger and way more destructive than the absolute worst hurricanes we have ever recorded. And the scary part is this triggers a terrifying geographical chain reaction. Because it's not just the wind and the buildings. Think about the oceans. They hold an immense, almost incomprehensible mass. With all that unstoppable momentum, the water has to go somewhere, right? The seas would just surge forward, creating enormous, towering tsunamis that would completely devastate and flood coastal cities on a global scale. And simultaneously, the very crust of the Earth would be severely traumatized. That sudden, violent jolt in rotation, it would trigger intense geological stress, literally shattering the surface to unleash massive earthquakes and violent volcanic eruptions all over the globe. Okay, wow, take a breath. I know that is a whole lot of doom and gloom. After picturing all that planetary chaos, we can finally relax a bit, because the good news, straight from our source material, is that this apocalyptic scenario is essentially impossible. We don't actually have to worry about the Earth randomly slamming on the brakes. Physics just doesn't work like that outside of these extreme thought experiments. When we zoom out to look at vast geological timeframes, planetary mechanics actually work at an agonizingly slow pace. Millions of years ago, the Earth rotated noticeably faster. Today, we sit comfortably at our 1,670 kilometers per hour. And millions of years in the future, the rotation will be slightly slower. Our rotation absolutely does change, but it evolves over millions of years, not overnight, and definitely not over a single devastating second. It's a very gradual, deeply stable evolution. Still, even knowing it's just a thought experiment, this explainer proves a really powerful point. It shows us exactly how much invisible force governs our everyday existence. We just walk around feeling so completely stationary, totally oblivious to the incredible speeds and massive physical forces keeping our environment stable. But if it ever miraculously did happen, just one single second of interruption would be enough to permanently alter the face of our planet. Which brings us to the end of our explainer today. I'm going to leave you with this final, kind of provocative question. Considering the terrifying, completely unstoppable forces of inertia, those supersonic winds, the global tsunamis, and the shattering earthquakes we just mapped out, do you think absolutely anyone could actually survive an event like this? It really puts our fragile little existence into perspective, doesn't it? Keep asking questions, keep looking at the science behind the everyday, and I'll see you in the next one.